AITA for refusing to meet my sister's son because she married my cheating ex? Because every time I try to move on with someone, all I got were phrases like, "Time heals all wounds. Forgive her. She's your family. Life goes on." Pure garbage that people say when they have no freaking clue what they're talking about. Nobody ever asked me how I felt. Nobody ever walked in my shoes. I was in a relationship for almost 3 years. Nothing perfect, obviously, but I was all in. I was in love. We were going to move in together. We had already looked at apartments in Portland, Oregon. A small one, old carpet, open kitchen with no dishwasher, but with enough space for both of us. I was already looking into credit options, checking what we could afford. I had that feeling that I was finally building something in my life. My sister was always around, always meddling in everything, but I didn't see it as a bad thing. We were close. We grew up together. We shared everything as kids. I thought it was nice that she got along with my partner. Sometimes it made me laugh to see them talking so much, cooking together, sharing memes on their phones. I never suspected anything, or rather, I didn't want to see anything, because now that I think about it, there were signs. But when you trust someone, you're blind as a bat. One day I come home from work, a long shift, 8 hours in a distribution center. I'm tired, sweaty. I just want to crash on the couch, watch some TV and eat. He greets me with a weird face, tells me he wants to talk, that he doesn't feel the same way, that he needs space. He drops it on me like that. No context, no real explanation, and that's it. We're over. At that moment, I didn't understand anything, but I didn't want to force anything either. I left, thinking it was something internal with him, a personal crisis or whatever. 2 weeks later, my sister texts me saying she urgently needs to talk to me, that it's something serious. I thought it was something about our parents' health. I don't know. I meet her at a coffee shop near where I used to live. I sit down, and not even 3 minutes pass when she tells me she's dating him, my ex. That she didn't want me to find out from someone else, as if that would lessen the blow, as if telling me in person was some act of love. I didn't say anything. I literally just stared at the table. She kept talking, throwing out phrases like, "It just happened. We didn't plan it. I don't want to lose you as a brother." Empty words. It was like listening to someone reading a poorly written script. Everything in my head was noise. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I didn't get angry. I didn't cry. I just got up and left. That night I didn't go home. I slept in the car, not because I'm dramatic, but because I didn't want to see or touch anything that reminded me of what was happening. I stayed there, lying in the driver's seat, listening to the rain hitting the roof, and I wondered how someone who's supposed to love you could do something like that to you. The worst part wasn't the betrayal, it was everything that came after. Because the next day nobody called me. Nobody. Not her, not him, not my mom, not my dad. Total silence, as if I was the one who had done something wrong. Days later, my mom calls me. I thought finally someone was going to be on my side, but no. She told me that love is complicated, that maybe they're meant to be. I almost laughed. She told me not to be selfish, to think about my sister's future. From then on, it was like they erased me. They started going out together, showing themselves as a couple on social media, photos, stories, dinners, Christmases, and everyone in the family acting like nothing happened, as if this wasn't completely messed up. I blocked them everywhere. I didn't want to see or know anything anymore. The worst was when I found out they were living together, in the same apartment I was going to share with him, that they rented that same place. I wanted to crawl out of my skin. I requested a transfer at work and moved to Boise, Idaho. A cheap, damp basement with a musty smell. I worked at an auto parts store, long shifts, little human contact, frozen meals. I was like that for almost a year. I didn't talk to anyone, not friends or family. I shut everything down and continued to stew in anger every day, every single day. And then, one day I get a message from her, a long one, full of things like, "I miss you. You're my brother. I want you to be a part of this." She told me she was pregnant, that they were getting married, that she wanted me to be at the wedding, that the family can't break up over a mistake. A mistake? Are you kidding me? I didn't answer. I turned off my phone. But 2 days later, my mom calls me again, saying my sister is very excited about the baby, that she's going to have a child and wants me to be there, that I shouldn't do this to her, that I should forgive, that I shouldn't be alone. And there I am, broken, in a city that doesn't feel like mine, thinking about whether or not to go back, whether to swallow all this crap and show up with a everything's fine face, or if I should remain erased forever, because honestly I don't know what to do. And I don't even know if I want to do anything anymore. I ended up going to the damn wedding, not because I wanted to, not because I felt it, not because it came from my heart. I went out of exhaustion from my mom constantly calling me, telling me it was for the baby, that if I didn't go, I would look like the resentful one, the bitter one, the one who ruins happy moments. She pressured me so much that at one point I said, "Fine, I'll go. I'll sit in the back. I won't talk to anyone, and I'll leave." That was it, nothing more. The wedding was outdoors, near Qley, in a kind of hall with trees around it. Very natural, very Pinterest. There was soft music, tables with candles, centerpieces with white flowers, all very neat. And there they were, walking among the people, greeting everyone as if they were the perfect couple, as if they hadn't destroyed everything. Her in her tight wedding dress, 5 months pregnant, smiling as if life was smiling at her too. And him, he didn't even look at me, as if I were just another guest, as if we hadn't shared 3 years of our lives. Nobody really greeted me, just those awkward head nods, as if saying, "Oh, you came." My mom came, hugged me tightly, told me she was happy I came. My dad didn't show up until the ceremony. He was always like that, kind of a ghost when there's trouble. The ceremony was short. A guy with a monotone voice read some words about true love, and I almost choked on the water I was drinking. When they said, "I do," and everyone applauded, I didn't make the slightest gesture. I was there, but I wasn't. I didn't want to be. I wanted it to end. Then came lunch. They sat me at a table with 2 aunts I hadn't seen in years and a distant cousin I didn't even know was still alive. Everyone eating and talking like nothing happened, as if all of this wasn't completely absurd. I just wanted to finish my plate and disappear. But no, she came to talk to me. My sister approached me with that plastic smile she puts on when she wants everything to seem fine. She said, "Thank you for coming." She touched my shoulder, leaned down to whisper to me, and said, "This means a lot to me. Seriously, I really hope we can be siblings again." I looked at her. I didn't say anything, not a word, because if I opened my mouth I was going to spit out everything I had kept inside. I just raised an eyebrow, half nodding, and went back to looking at my plate. She left. She didn't insist. She probably thought that with time I would let my guard down. After the event, I went back to Boise. I locked myself up for 2 days. I was filled with an internal rage that I didn't know how to release. I felt used, as if they only wanted me there to complete the picture, to say, "Look what a beautiful family we have," as if my presence validated everything they did. It sickens me to think that was probably what they were looking for me to serve as automatic forgiveness. Weeks went by. I didn't talk to any of them again, no messages, no calls, nothing. But then, one day I get an email. Yes, an email, as if we were in the 2000s. It was from him, my ex, now her brand new husband, the guy who broke everything and married my sister as if nothing happened. The subject line read, "I want to talk." I stared at it for a while. I hesitated to open it, but I did. The message was long. He told me he wanted to have a sincere adult conversation, that difficult things had happened, that maybe he hadn't handled everything in the best way, but that he wanted to leave the problems behind, that now with the baby on the way he needed to clear his conscience and start over. He told me he'd like to invite me to his house, our house, for lunch on Sunday and talk like 2 people who shared a lot. I wanted to punch the screen, but the guy was serious. Because 2 days later my sister called to tell me it would be good if I accepted, that they were trying to build something healthy, that the baby didn't deserve a divided family, that I was also a part of it. That phrase turned my stomach. I didn't answer either of them. I didn't go to any lunch. I don't want to enter that house. I don't want to see the same table where we used to have breakfast, now being used with her. I don't want to see the same walls, the same curtains, the same couch where we watched movies, now turned into their new family nest. It's as if everything we built they recycled and painted a different color, and they want me to applaud. After a while, I started receiving pictures of the baby by message, of the belly, of them with giant smiles, as if they wanted to convince me how happy they are. And all I think is, what's the need to rub this in my face? My mom sent them to me. She told me she was sending them so I would feel like a part of it. Part of what, Mom? Part of a circus where the brother gets involved with your partner and nobody says anything? The straw that broke the camel's back was when they called to ask me to be the baby's godfather. Yes, as you're reading it, the godfather. It would be symbolic, they told me. It was a way to close the past, to show that we could heal. I laughed. I literally laughed on the phone. Not a little chuckle, a dry, almost hysterical laugh. Then I hung up. After the whole godfather thing and the ridiculous messages, I truly erased myself. I changed my number, closed my email, deactivated all the social media accounts I had left. I went completely off the radar. They dragged me between, we're family, and it's been a long time, but nobody ever asked me if I wanted to, if I was okay, if any of that had left me screwed up. Never. I went back to basics. I woke up, went to work, came back, ate something frozen, slept badly. I had no social life. I had nothing. I kept myself busy so I wouldn't think, but thinking was inevitable. No matter how much you hide it, the brain always finds a moment to remind you of things. And it reminded me in every silence, in every gap in the day. It was like a wound that wouldn't close, because someone keeps picking at it. A couple of months later, I started seeing someone, nothing serious. She was a coworker. We would have coffee during breaks. We would chat. She had that way of speaking that gives you peace, as if she wasn't demanding anything from you. I liked her. One day, I briefly told her what had happened to me, not in detail, just that I had been cheated on badly and that I was trying to start over. She listened without judging, without throwing out self-help phrases. I think that's why I stayed, because she didn't ask anything of me. She didn't rush me. She didn't want to fix me. But as soon as things started to get a little better, what always happens happened. The family reappeared. This time it was my dad. He called me from another number. He told me he knew I didn't want to know anything, but that he needed to tell me something, that the baby was born, that it was a boy, that he was healthy, that my sister was too. He told me as if it was good news for me, as if I should be happy. I didn't answer him. I remained silent. He kept talking, said he understood my anger, that it had been a long time, that the family had to heal, that it was time to grow up, and that the baby wasn't to blame for anything. He asked if I at least wanted to meet him. I said no and hung up. I'm not interested in that kid. I'm not interested in that family they invented. I don't want to pretend we're something we're not. If blood is so important to them, they should start by respecting it, because blood can also be betrayed, and they betrayed me, all of them. Later, I found out they named him the same name I had thought of if I ever had a son. It's not like I had it registered anywhere, but I had said it a couple of times at family dinners. They knew. They used it anyway. It may seem like a silly thing, but for me it was like a slap in the face, as if they were saying, "We're keeping everything of yours." So what? After that, I started getting sick, physically, I mean. Headaches all the time, insomnia, trouble eating. I had tests done, and everything came back normal. The doctor told me it was stress, that my body was accumulating things. He sent me to therapy. I went to 2 sessions and never went back, not because the therapist was bad, but because I got tired of talking about it. I had already replayed it 1,000 times in my head. Why repeat it? It wasn't going to cure me. One day I ran into my ex at the supermarket. It was like a movie scene, but without a soundtrack or dramatic stares. It was just awkward. I was in the frozen food aisle looking for a cheap pizza. I turned around and there he was, with a cart full of diapers and baby food. We looked at each other. He froze. I didn't say anything. I grabbed my stuff and left. Not a word, not a greeting, nothing. But that night I didn't sleep. I sat in bed with the lights off and couldn't close my eyes. I kept replaying it over and over in my head. I wondered if he slept well, if he was really at peace with everything, if he felt any remorse. But deep down I didn't care. I didn't want answers. I just wanted them to disappear from my story. A week later, my sister sent me a handwritten letter. I didn't even know she still wrote letters. It arrived by regular mail. It was a folded sheet inside an envelope with no return address. I recognized her handwriting. She told me she loved me, that she missed me, that it hurt her that we weren't close. She talked about the baby. She told me she thought of me when she rocked him, that she wanted her son to have his uncle close, that hopefully one day I could forgive her. I put the letter in a drawer. I didn't throw it away, but I didn't respond either. It seemed like another play to pull me back in, to use guilt, to make me play the good brother and swallow everything as if nothing happened. The worst part is that over time you start to think that maybe they're right, that maybe I was the only one left in ruins, because they're moving on, they have their house, their son, their family. And I'm here telling this on a forum, not knowing what to do with so much anger that still won't go away. A while after they sent me that handwritten letter, which I still have stored at the bottom of a drawer unopened for weeks, it was my birthday. It's not like I'm a fan of celebrating it or anything. I haven't done it in years. It seems like any other day to me. But that particular one was weird. I felt like I was reaching an age where you can't justify a lot of things as youth stuff anymore. 31. I don't know. I feel like you're officially in another stage. And I was still stuck with my head full of old crap that would never go away. I took the day off. I didn't request it in advance. I told my boss the night before. He looked at me with a "here we go again" face, but he didn't say anything. I went out early in the morning with no destination. I walked through downtown Boise, went into a coffee shop, drank a coffee without any desire to. Then I spent some time in a bookstore that I don't usually visit. I picked up a couple of books just to read the back covers, with no real intention of buying anything. I was killing time, basically. I didn't want to be home. I didn't want anyone to tell me happy birthday. I didn't want to think about how that day, years ago, I had spent it with that guy. 6 p.m., I was in a dimly lit bar. No loud music, smelling of old oil and spilled beer. I sat at the bar and ordered the first thing that came to mind. I didn't even look at what it was. I just wanted to have something in my hand, something to drink, something to numb my head a little. I finished the first one and ordered another. The TV was on with a game I didn't even know who was playing. I didn't care about anything. And that's when the message arrived, a number I didn't have saved. I opened it without thinking. It was a picture of the baby, a baby wrapped in a blanket, with a handwritten sign that said, "Happy birthday, Uncle." I stared at it without feeling anything at first. Then a strange mix came over me, a knot in my stomach. Not because of the baby, but because of everything that image represented. It was my sister who had sent it, using her son as an excuse, as a bridge, as a way to make me feel like I should be grateful for being remembered, as if that was enough to erase everything that came before. I didn't reply. I didn't even think about it. I turned off my phone, finished my beer, ordered another, and stayed there a while longer, thinking about nothing and everything. And it's not that I don't have feelings, you know? It's not that I don't care about the baby as a person. It's that I have no connection to that world. I don't know how to build affection for something that was born from betrayal. I'm not going to fake it. I'm not going to get into that movie they want us all to act out. I came home late, a little drunk. I'm not going to deny it. I'm not proud of it, but I don't care much either. I slept badly, woke up with a headache, dehydrated, with no desire for anything. When I turned on my phone, I had like 5 messages from my mom. "Why didn't you answer?" They sent that with a lot of love. It's not fair to the baby. Always the same, always the emotional blackmail. And what bothered me the most was the last sentence. "You have to grow up." As if all this mess was my fault. As if I was a spoiled brat who doesn't want to share his toys. And everything they did to me? What about that? Doesn't that count? Or does maturity consist of swallowing everything, putting on a stupid face, and sitting at the same table with the people who screwed you over? A week later, my mom showed up in Boise, unannounced. On a Saturday afternoon, she knocked on the door, and I thought it was a neighbor or a package. When I opened it and saw her standing there, with a grocery bag in her hand, I froze. I didn't know whether to hug her or slam the door in her face. She asked to come in. I said yes, more out of inertia than desire. She came in, sat down, took out some Tupperware, asked me if I was eating well, said I looked thin, that I had dark circles, everything a mother says when she doesn't know where to start talking. Then she started to cry. She told me she missed me, that it hurt her to see us like this, that she didn't want the family to be broken, that she didn't care if I talked to my sister or not, but that she didn't want to lose me too. She was really crying, no acting, sincere tears. And that disarmed me a little, because I understood that she was broken too, that she didn't know how to handle the situation, that she chose the path that seemed least painful, looking the other way. We ate something, we talked little. She told me she was leaving the next day, that she just wanted to see me, and that I should think about whether someday I wanted to meet the baby, that I didn't have to decide now, but that I should think about it. She hugged me before she left. I stayed on the couch for a long time after she closed the door. I didn't do anything. I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't pick up my phone. Nothing. That night, I went to bed late, again without sleeping, and I decided to do something. Not for her, not for them, but for me. I wrote a long message to my sister, the longest I've ever written in my life. I told her everything from the beginning, from when she started exchanging glances with him, from when I noticed strange things, from when I left home that night. She confessed to me in the coffee shop. I told her everything, how I felt, how messed up it left me, how it destroyed me, not just the relationship, but the trust in everything. I told her that I didn't want to have any relationship with her, that the baby wasn't my problem, that I wasn't going to be part of that lie disguised as a family. She didn't answer me right away. Days later, I got a short email. It said, "I understand. I'm sorry. I hope you change your mind someday. I love you." Nothing more, no justifications, no explanations. I guess it was the least she could say after that message I sent her. The silence was the best thing that happened to me. There were no more photos, no more calls, no letters, no Merry Christmas, no birthdays, nothing. Silence. And for the first time in a long time, that gave me peace. I realized that part of what was making me sick was that constant insistence that I go back to fitting into a puzzle that I didn't create, and that no longer made sense to me. I continued with my routine: work, home, a trip to the supermarket, a beer at the downtown bar when I wanted to see people without having to talk to anyone. Some afternoons I sat in the park with a coffee and watched people go by. I felt outside of everything, as if everyone had a life and I had been on pause for years. The girl from work, the one I told you about, started coming over more often. Sometimes she brought food, other times a movie. No movie romance. No, we fell in love after so much pain. No, just company. And I needed that. Someone to sit with me on the couch without talking, watching a screen or listening to music, without asking me things I don't want to talk about. Sometimes we would fall asleep right there. It was the closest thing to peace I had felt in a long time. Until one day I found out that my sister and he were separating. They didn't tell me. Obviously, I found out from a coworker who, without knowing the whole story, told me that his cousin lived in the same building as a couple who were screaming at each other every weekend. He said her name and I froze. I asked him a couple of things as if I didn't care, and we confirmed that he was talking about them. Apparently, he would leave the house every so often, sleep in the car, or stay at a friend's house. They argued about everything. The baby crying his eyes out, neighbors fed up, nobody doing anything. I went home with a strange feeling. It wasn't joy, it wasn't sadness either. It was like a mix of "I told you so" with some accumulated anger, because deep down I knew that was going to happen. I always knew that relationship wouldn't last. Because what is born from betrayal dies the same way. There is no foundation, there is no truth. And now they were falling apart. A few days passed, and my mom showed up again. This time she didn't knock on the door, she called me. She used a neighbor's number, according to her, because she knew I wouldn't answer if it was hers. I answered because I thought it was a wrong number. She caught me off guard. She told me she needed to talk, that something had happened, that he had left the house, that my sister was alone with the baby, that she had no one to turn to, and that I, as her brother, had to at least listen to her. That's where I really got angry. I told her I wasn't anyone's brother, that I was the guy they betrayed, the one they abandoned, the one they treated like trash. That she couldn't come now with the family speech, that when she married my ex nobody thought of me, that when they removed me from all the family photos nobody called to ask if I was okay, that they shouldn't remember me now that things were going wrong. And my mom started to cry. She told me I was right, that she felt bad about everything, that she knew she hadn't done things right, but that she couldn't stand seeing my sister like that the baby wasn't to blame, that they were about to lose the apartment because they couldn't pay, that he left and didn't come back, that he took money, things from the house, and disappeared. And for a second I hesitated, because I'm a guy who was taught that family is taken care of, that you don't abandon your own. But then I remembered that they didn't apply that to me. And so I didn't lift a finger. I told my mom that I was sorry, but that I wasn't going to get involved in that I had enough to do rebuilding myself to have to save someone else. I hung up the call. I didn't block her, but I didn't answer again. That night it was hard to sleep, not because of guilt, not because of worry, but because I was angry at having to keep choosing between my peace of mind and the moral duty of being the good guy, as if I still owed them something, as if the wound wasn't enough, as if I always had to give in to make others feel better. The girl who came over realized something was wrong with me. I didn't tell her everything, but I told her a part. She looked at me and told me something I'll never forget. Stop holding up the people who knocked you down. And there I felt something akin to relief. Weeks went by and I heard that he had moved to another state alone, that he left everything behind, that there was another woman involved, that my sister was left with nothing. The baby kept crying every night. The neighbors filed a noise complaint. They called social services, a complete mess. After that last call with my mom, not much happened until I started getting indirect news, nothing directly from them. It was people I knew, neighbors, a coworker who ran into someone, things like that. I was getting bits and pieces, like when you overhear a conversation and you don't really know if it's real or if they're messing with you. The truth is that what I was hearing was getting more and more messed up. That he left the state, that he stopped sending money to my sister, that he's living with another woman, that the baby cries every night, that she's alone and on the verge of collapse, that she can't pay the rent, that she's selling things from the apartment to raise money, that she's going to lose the house, that my mom is bringing her food every so often, that the kid is somewhat malnourished, that social services went there twice, that there's already a report open. And look, I swear to everything I have that I didn't laugh. I wasn't happy. I didn't say she deserves it. I didn't feel better. I felt tired. I felt as if all of this was confirmation that what I had said years ago was happening, but it didn't matter anymore. I knew it. They knew it. Everyone knew it. But it was useless now. I'm not one to meddle in other people's business, especially if it's people who betrayed me. But there was a child in the middle, and that messed with my head. Because I have no connection with him. I've never seen him in person, but I can't stop thinking that he's not to blame for anything, that he didn't ask to be born, that he didn't choose those parents, that he happened to be in the middle of the mess they created themselves. So I started doing something that I don't know if it was right or wrong, but I did it. I started inquiring, without telling anyone. I inquired if there was a way to help the child without getting involved with them. I asked about state assistance, about protection programs. I even went to a community center to see if I could talk to someone anonymously. They told me that if the child was in danger and I had concrete information, I could make an anonymous report. And that's what I did. I called it a neighbor's alarm, without saying who I was, without saying it was my family. 2 weeks later, I learned that the social worker returned to the apartment and took the child, who had a fever, was dirty, his clothes stained with vomit, his face marked from so much crying. That my sister wasn't there. She had left him alone to go see a friend who was lending her Wi-Fi. She didn't leave anyone to watch him. She left him with the TV on and a half-eaten cookie on the table. A baby less than 2 years old. When I read it, I felt something in my chest that I can't explain. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't anger. It was sadness, anger at life, at the system, at everything. Because even though I made the report, the damage was already done. That child already had that trauma on him. He was already scarred. The next day my mom called me, crying like never before. She told me they had taken the child, that my sister was destroyed, that they didn't know what to do, that they were trying to get him back, that they needed a positive testimony, someone who would speak well of her. She asked me, and there I exploded. I told her no, that I wasn't going to lie, that I wasn't going to vouch for a person who can't even take care of herself, that she couldn't come now with the family speech, that when she married my ex nobody thought about me, that when they removed me from all the family photos nobody called to ask if I was okay. They shouldn't come crawling back to me now that things were falling apart. My mom hung up without saying anything, leaving me talking to myself. I guess that was her way of telling me she was disappointed, but it doesn't affect me anymore. They stopped considering me their son a long time ago. They only look for me when everything's on fire. A week later, my sister texted. It was the first time in months. A short message, telling me she knew I'd made the report, that if the baby didn't come back it would be my fault, that how could I be such a terrible son of a bad word, to do that to her. That's when I realized she hadn't learned a thing. She was still the same. She didn't care about the kid. She cared about playing the victim. I leaned back in my chair, read the message again, deleted it, and blocked her. After that, I tried to go back to my life, but it's not that easy. When you get involved, even if it's to try and help, some of it splashes on you. It stays with you. I can't get it out of my head. I picture the kid somewhere with strangers, maybe better off than with her, but still confused, scared. And I can't stop thinking that in some way, I'm a part of that too. I don't know what will happen to him. I don't know if he'll be adopted, if he'll be returned to her, if he'll end up in a home with more problems. All I know is I don't want to get involved again, because every time I do, I drag myself down with it. I lose a little more of myself. After my sister's message blaming me for the report, I didn't hear from her again. I blocked her everywhere, like I said, and I didn't bother checking if she tried to contact me through other means. My mom didn't call again either. The circus was over. And for a while that was it. Silence. Part of me felt relieved. I'm not going to lie. Silence is a strange thing. At first it bothers you, but then you get used to it. When you've come from months and years of arguments, reproaches, emotional blackmail, tears, guilt, silence feels like a vacation. There's nothing, just you and your thoughts, which is enough. I went back to focusing on work, started asking for more shifts, offered to cover weekends, signed up for tasks nobody wanted, anything to keep me busy. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that not thinking is sometimes better than thinking. The problem is you can't avoid it. Always at night, when everything's quiet, your mind comes back. And there you are again, reliving things you didn't choose to experience. One Friday night, after getting off work, I ran into the girl I was seeing. I'd been a bit distant the past few weeks, nothing serious, just life stuff. We started talking for a while, and I ended up telling her part of what had happened with the baby. I told her I'd filed the report, that I felt bad, but that I also felt like I didn't have a choice. She listened. She didn't judge me. She didn't interrupt. When I finished, she just said something simple. It wasn't your responsibility, but you did it anyway. That says a lot about you. I didn't know how to respond, not because I thought she was right, but because I hadn't thought of it that way. For me, it was just a reflex. I saw a disaster coming and tried to stop it the best I could, without getting dragged down with it. A month went by, a month without a single word from them. Then one day I got a call from a woman I didn't know. She introduced herself as a social worker, told me she was handling the child's case, that they needed to establish a connection, someone from the extended family who could offer some kind of link to his origins. She said the biological father was completely out of the picture, that my sister wasn't legally or emotionally fit to regain custody at that point, and that they'd gotten my name because apparently she'd mentioned me as a last resort. I was speechless. I literally didn't know what to say. She asked me not to answer right away, to think about it, that they just wanted to know if I was willing to have contact with the child. Not adoption, not custody, just contact. Visits, video calls, letters, something to prevent the child from growing up completely disconnected. I told her I needed time. We hung up, and I sat for hours doing nothing. I didn't look at my phone. I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't eat. I just sat there with that phrase going around in my head. Last resort. Meaning, they used me again. And this time with a child involved. I didn't sleep that night. I spent the entire night thinking about whether it made sense to get involved in something like this, whether I could connect with a child who, although innocent, is the son of two people who destroyed me. I thought about whether I could be a part of his life without it messing me up again. And I also thought about the fact that he has no idea about any of this, that he doesn't know me, that if he ever saw me he wouldn't know who I am, that to him I'm nobody. Does it make sense for me to be someone to him? Why? So that one day, when he's old enough, they can tell him everything and he'll see me as the guy who reported his mom. The idea haunted me. I got up, went to work, came back, and it was in my head all day. I imagined myself sitting with a child I didn't know how to look at, imagined myself telling him that none of it was his fault, but not knowing if he'd believe me. I imagined myself in silence because I wouldn't know what to say. 3 days later, the social worker called again. She asked if I'd made a decision. I told her no, that I wasn't sure, that I didn't feel capable of establishing any kind of bond if it meant reliving everything I tried to bury. She didn't push it, thanked me for my honesty, said she understood. I hung up and felt guilty, but also a bit relieved because I'd listened to myself. Because for the first time in a long time, I'd made a decision based on what I needed, not on what others needed, expected, asked for, or demanded. Just me. That same week, a letter arrived, not handwritten this time. It was a typed page, no signature, but it was from her, my sister. She said she understood why I couldn't be involved, that she appreciated what I did for the baby anyway, that she felt lost, that she didn't expect me to forgive her, but that someday she'd like to be able to explain to me what she felt at the time, that it was hard for her to live with everything she'd done. After that last letter, the typed one, and signed, without the reek of genuine guilt, things calmed down. And when I say calmed down, I mean they stopped knocking on my door, not that things got better, because everything's still the same, just quiet. But at this point, silence is what I prefer. It's the only thing that doesn't stir anything up, the only thing that doesn't demand a response from me. A year passed since everything blew up, since the kid was born, since he left, since I made the report, since they tried to use me to fix a mess that wasn't mine. A whole year. Seems like a short time, but if I told you how much I aged in that time, you'd laugh. Physically, it doesn't show that much, but mentally, it does. It changed my face, it changed the way I talk, it changed my mood. I don't have the patience I used to. I have trouble trusting, even people who have nothing to do with this whole story. Things didn't last with the girl I was seeing. It wasn't her fault, it was mine. I couldn't open up anymore. I started withdrawing, creating distance, not talking, and that kills everything. I didn't fight with her, there were no shouts or drama, we just faded out. One day she stopped coming over, and I didn't look for her because I felt that if I couldn't be whole, I wasn't going to waste anyone's time. I have enough to carry on my own. Things with my parents, with them, turned cold. My mom still texts me every now and then, sends messages with no context. It was hot today, I saw a picture of you as a child. I miss you. I read them. Sometimes I reply with a thanks, nothing more. I haven't seen my dad in months. I heard he sold a few things and helped my sister with money to move. Now she's living in a rented room in someone else's house. They took the baby away from her permanently, gave him to a foster family. I don't know if she sees him, and I don't care. Sometimes I feel like a jerk for how I disconnected from everything, as if I shut myself down on purpose, like I abandoned ship when it started to sink. But the truth is, that ship threw me overboard first. They left me no room. They erased me. And now that they're swimming among the wreckage, they expect me to throw them a life preserver. But I can't. I don't have the strength anymore. I've started having strange dreams again, not nightmares, just confusing dreams. Sometimes I dream I'm in a strange house and I hear a baby crying behind a door. I open it, and there's no one there. Other times I dream I'm eating with my sister and him, as if nothing ever happened. But I know it did happen, and I feel nauseous in the dream. I wake up sweating, angry, but after a while, it passes. It's just my brain trying to make sense of things that don't add up. I won't lie, sometimes I miss things. I miss what I thought I had. I don't miss them. I miss the idea of having a place, a family, someone who won't stab you in the back. That false sense of security of thinking there are people who will never fail you. But that idea is broken. It doesn't exist anymore, and I have to learn to live with that. Over time, I've built a quiet life, a small one, without many people. I have a couple of coworkers I have a beer with on Fridays. We talk about unimportant things, soccer, TV shows, rising prices. They're good for me. I haven't told them anything. I just said I don't have a relationship with my family. They didn't ask any more questions, and I appreciate that. The social worker called me one more time, a couple of months ago. She said the boy was doing well, that he was with a couple who took good care of him, that he rarely asked about his mom, that he was still too young to understand everything, but that he was growing up healthy. She asked if I wanted her to give him my contact information in case, someday in the future, he wanted to know about me. I said yes. Not because I want to see him, not because I want him to say thank you or anything, just because if one day he wonders who was the only one who did something, he'll have a way to find me. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.